I'm Orlando Parker Jr. I am an artist living here in North Carolina. I was born in Detroit, Michigan. And I sing, I write, and I model, and I act, and I do theater, and I produce, and do all kinds of cool stuff. And when I'm not doing all of that, I work for an oral surgeon a few days a week, also in Raleigh, assisting in oral surgery procedures. What brought me here today is that I've always felt that there was a need for uh, people who look like me to be represented. It's out of balance. There is an imbalance in the representation of Black and white people in the world. One reason for that is that there are just more white people than there are Black people. It's just a fact. However, the media, the magazines, the television shows, the news stories could do a better job at representing people of color, not just Black people, all people of color, especially the natives, representing the Native Americans, whose country this is that we're in a fair and better light, is something that I feel very strongly is missing. And so any opportunity for me to speak up and make sure that people who look like me are seen, heard, and accounted for, I take that opportunity. One of the reasons that I am an artist today is because growing up and moving around the country a lot and being isolated and not having a lot of friends growing up, I was able to see people like Tyson Beckford and Naomi Campbell, Luther Vandross, and Whitney Houston on magazine covers. And it was always the same few Black artists rotating on all the magazine covers over and over and over again, because there was only a handful of them at that time when I was growing up. And they inspired me. They allowed me to see that I could be on that platform, that I could be on television. There was no one in my neighborhood that was on TV. I had no other reason to believe that I could be on TV other than the people who were on those magazines. So that's how important it is for people who look like me to see themselves represented in the world, or look like an Asian person or a Middle Eastern Indian person, whatever that is. It's important for people to see themselves in the world, to understand that you can be in that place, because sometimes it's hard to see yourself there just based on your parents telling you, yeah, you can do this and you can do that. It's like, okay, but how does that really look in real life? Because I don't see it. So now that we've seen at least one Black president, for instance, we know that that is actually a realistic possibility. It's not just something that we were told growing up, like, yeah, you can be president one day. I was told that long before Barack Obama became the president, and can honestly say I didn't really believe it. I felt like, my parents were trying to gas me up and give me that confidence that any parent would want to give their child. Just saying that, you reach for the stars, you can do whatever you want to do. And it's just like, yeah, sure, mom, But now we know you can actually do that. We know that you can perform at the Super Bowl. You can own an NFL team and be a rapper at the same time, because we see people like Jay-Z doing that. So that's why it's so important that we be represented. And when I hear that any, organization is going to be in my neighborhood speaking to people about equality or anything that relates to me, I'm going to make sure that people that look like me have a voice and a say-so in that, because on a personal level, I'm very tired of people speaking for me and for my community and not even extending an invitation for us to come in and speak for ourselves. Navigating as an artist in Raleigh has been particularly challenging because there is a lack of equality. And as I was saying before, it's hard to talk about equity without there even being equality. There's nothing to be divvied out if I'm not even being given an opportunity to begin with. So I feel like equality is, providing everyone with an equal opportunity And so if you provide equality to, say, you're a music venue who provides, equality to the artists in the community to come and perform, and you give everybody an opportunity to fail or succeed at selling out those shows, because at the end of the day, that's the name of the game, which you have to sell tickets. Doesn't matter what your race is. So equality is, saying, I'm going to give you the same opportunity that I gave this white artist to sell out a show. And if you can do it, great. If you can't, then okay. And then once we provide everyone with those opportunities, then we give them the same promotion, the same exposure, the same hype that we give every artist. And I feel like that's the equity, proportionately, it's distributing everything evenly. But there isn't any of that in this area. And so what I've determined or found that I need to do for myself is create the opportunities. So, because they were just not being given to me. And so it was either give up or start creating opportunities for myself. And I was not going to give up, because I didn't think that was the answer for the artists that would need to come behind me. I thought I had a responsibility, because I was in this space at this time, to make sure that I left it better than I found it. And so that means producing my own music, no matter how many mistakes I'm going to make doing that. And I have made mistakes producing my own projects, because you don't have sometimes the guidance that you would like when you're doing things on your own. And sometimes you don't have the finances that you would like to get it to the quality that you would want it to be. So you learn and make all those mistakes along the way, which I have made. But I've gotten myself to a point where people know who I am in the area that I live in, and I've made a name for myself in Raleigh, and I can go out and get gigs and get paid work with what I've done for myself alone. And to me, that speaks volumes. Like, I don't have a white savior who said, okay, I'm going to take this Black artist under my wing and I'm going to make him something. I made myself something, because they just weren't giving me those opportunities. And I felt like I was a better singer, quite frankly, than a lot of the singers that were being given so many opportunities. And I look at things objectively and as a business person, and I was like, well, maybe it's because, those people are selling more tickets than I am, and it's not about race at all. So then I would go to their shows, and I would pay to go to their shows and kind of scope out the scene so that I could really do my research and be able to argue my point accurately. And I would go to their shows, and there wouldn't be people there. They weren't selling tickets. And so I was like, well, why are they being given show dates and I'm not being given show dates? If these people are not even able to sell tickets, what is it about them? And then you find out that they're friends with the venue owner, or they grew up with the venue owner, and things like that. So we live in a world where you can be better at something than someone else and be capable of producing more revenue than someone else. But it doesn't matter when they have that privilege working to their advantage, which is that, that that's their friend and that's their buddy, and they tend to stick together. And it doesn't really matter how talented you are, how many people want to come out and hear you sing. When it comes down to it, they're going to choose that person over you. And that's where, for me, inequality and the racial division comes into play. That old do unto others as you would have them do unto you, treat other people the way you want to be treated. I can honestly say I've done that. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I'm an imperfect person. But one thing I try to do is to practice what I preach. And the beautiful thing about my work is that it speaks for itself. And so I can say whatever I want to say, and then people can go YouTube me and see what the truth is. And what I say is that I provide opportunities for people, for artists of all races, to have a platform. If you're an actor, if you're a model, if you're a producer, if you're a director, I've given all of those people in this area opportunities to work and to have their name appear on a legitimate project. And if you go on my YouTube videos, you'll see white actresses playing the lead in my videos. You'll see white men playing the lead. You'll see black people in my videos. You'll see women, you'll see men. You'll see gay people, you'll see straight people, you'll see Asian people. It's not by accident that those people are in my videos. As an artist when I'm writing a song or when I'm deciding to cover someone else's song, it's a conscious decision. When I'm writing, I'm like, I see this person playing this part in the video, I see this person doing that. Or I'll say, okay, now that I've written this song, I've recorded it and it's done. Now I need someone to direct the video. Who do I want to direct the video and why? Sometimes I purposely choose one or the other, male or female or whatever, because I think that at that time, that's who needs an opportunity, and I want that energy on my project. There's many different things that go into why I choose who I choose. I never choose people out of desperation or because no one else wants to do it. It's always, I want this specific person for this particular reason on this project, because this is what this project needs to be the best that I think it could be. And so in my work, I've used everyone and I've given them an opportunity, and I've shot, music videos in this area, and I've put out casting calls to say, hey, if you're a model or an actor, you want an opportunity to have your face on camera, then, come out to the video shoot. And people, the community, they've done that time and time again. I've gone to local businesses and I said, I'm going to shoot a video, and would you like to have your business featured in my video? It's free exposure for you, and it also gives me a free location. That's how I have to approach things. Like, it's a give and take. And so I've done that for many, many years, and it's represented in my work. And so that's how I am able to give back. And like I was talking to someone earlier who's not from here, who's working on this project. There was an pair who I modeled with years ago. She's from Italy and was living in Raleigh at the time as an pair, which is like a babysitter from what I understand. And we did some work together, and she said, I know you're going to be doing big things one day. If you ever shoot a music video, please consider hiring me for the video. And I said, of course I will. And at that time, I didn't have any plans of doing anything like on that level. And once I did get to the point of shooting my first music video, she was living back overseas, and I happened to do it over there. And I hit her up and I said, hey, I'm doing that video that we talked about all those years ago. Do you want to be in it? And she was like, sure. And she got off work and came. We were in London at the time, and she came and she was in my music video. And I thought that was such a beautiful full circle experience of just not only trying to keep my word, but trying to give another artist who's just like me an opportunity to shine. And she was in the video, and later on, she got agency representation, and they needed her to give them certain things. She needed to have an IMDb credit or whatever it is, and my video is credited there. And so she was able to use that to sort of legitimize herself to get into this agency. And she got in, and now she's like doing extra work on blockbuster films now. And so that's a way that you can use what you're doing to sort of lift up the next person and give them an opportunity. And she's probably doing bigger stuff than I am at this point, honestly. But it started with me giving her an opportunity. And I have no ill feelings about, oh, she's doing better than me now, and she started off in my stuff. It feels good to know that she got a part of her start doing one of my projects. So using my art and my voice to have the difficult conversations is difficult, because studying musicians in the music industry growing up, I understood that, especially for a Black artist, you had to be if you wanted to be successful, you had to be as mainstream and likable as possible. That's why the people who I looked up to, like Whitney Houston, for instance, who's my favorite singer, like, you never really knew what political party she was. You just knew she was a great vocalist, and that's what she was known for, because they didn't want those things to, they didn't want people to dislike her because she's a Democrat or she's a Republican. So you realize that when you go into the professional world in general, that you don't want to talk about religion, sexual orientation, politics, and all those things, just because it creates division. So for me to start talking about those things, it was very difficult, because I knew that it would shut doors for me. I knew that standing against HB2 in public and standing up for LGBT people, Black people, transgender people was going to turn people off to me, or vice versa. So that was difficult, but I felt like I needed to be able to sleep well at night, knowing that I did my part and that I was true to myself. So I had to be willing to not be as successful as maybe I would have wanted to be or want to be, by speaking the truth. And so in my work, I've talked about, there's a song I wrote called Transcend, which I wrote because once I joined once I joined the movement to stand against HB2, a lot of people were telling me that you're probably not going to be able to get as far as you want to go because you've turned a lot of people off now by doing that. And I wrote that song, as I was sort of going through a depression, and it's a simple song, but it just says to transcend and go beyond the limitations that people try to impress on you. Because a lot of times when people say like you're not going to be as successful as you could have been, it's coming from a place of fear. It's their fear based on their own experiences. Even sometimes our parents have been rejected, or they've had things happen to them and they're afraid the same thing is going to happen to you. And so they try to help you avoid those pitfalls, so they think. And so they place limitations on you out of fear. And you have to go beyond that and transcend their understanding. And so that's what I've done in my work is I've transcended the things that people have tried to put on me as far as what I should speak up for and what I shouldn't speak up for. What do I want to see from my community that I live in? I feel like I live in the heart of Raleigh, which is downtown. And I've been living down here for years. And this is predominantly where I perform, is downtown Raleigh. And I shop here, I support the local businesses, and I would like to see them support me. And when I say me, I'm not saying me, Orlando Parker Jr., I'm saying my community, the Black community. I would like to see local businesses support us, and not just with social media posts. I would like to see them investing in us financially, because our economic power is a superpower. We spend a lot of money, unfortunately, on material things. People do in general, but statistically, I mean, the numbers have been done for how much money, the billions that Black people spend on retail and things, and it's significant. And if we were to take that back, there would be a significant impact on businesses, especially local businesses. And they need to understand that and respect it. And they need to do their part in sowing back into the people who have sown into them, especially local businesses. I feel like they ask more of the community than corporate businesses do as far as support. When things like COVID hit, they really needed the community. Local businesses did, especially local music venues, and I just don't feel like they give it back, and I have a huge problem with that. As an artist, and just as a human being, as a taxpayer in this area, I just don't feel like it's the give and take that I spoke about when I said that I had to take my career into my own hands and start producing my own projects. And in doing that, I would go to these businesses and say, hey, can I film here? And in return, we'll make sure that your signage is displayed in my video, and you get your free promo out of it. That give and take, we don't get that from them, the Black community. And I want to see them using their businesses to as a platform, and to promote diversity and to tell our stories and to expose us to their customers, so that their customers, who are predominantly white, are not afraid of us and don't dislike us based on some news article that they wrote, that was written, and that they think represents all of us. Because you have to understand, most people don't live in densely populated areas. Most people live in rural areas. Sometimes those of us who live in these cities think that the majority of people live this way. Most people are not exposed to diversity and all these different looking people and all these people who dress like individuals. Most people live in rural areas where everyone is the same. So all they know is what they see on TV and what they hear in the news. And so if they're hearing, black man robbed somebody, that's all they know about us. So it's up to other white people to change that narrative and to tell to share us with those people. And it starts at the local level and it sort of works its way out. I feel like a huge part of why we are still, at this point racially that we've been at for hundreds and hundreds of years in this country is because people still just don't know each other, and you fear what you don't know, and they dislike ideas of us that aren't really real. And so we need to be conversating and getting to know each other so that we can have a relationship and coexist in a harmonious way. And as long as we're all strangers still, it's easy to dislike people that you don't know. Once you know someone and they've been humanized and you know their backstory and you understand why they are the way they are, it makes it more difficult to dislike them. Unless you're just an asshole and you're just going to dislike them no matter what. Once you have that understanding of them, it builds empathy, like someone was saying earlier. And that's why it's so important that we get a chance to share our stories. And these local businesses need to be representing us in their work, in their posters, in their promotional materials. There needs to be Black people, and there needs to be Black people who don't look like Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben and these slave-looking people. It needs to be professional, well-articulate, people who present well, because that is the majority of us. The majority of us are not being arrested and are not crackheads and drug addicts and rappers or basketball players either. So that's what I would like to see more of in my community, is representation and showing us in a positive light. I will say that some local venues will try to argue that, oh, we do book Black artists, but yeah, you book artists who show us I feel like don't represent me, and sometimes show us in not the best light. The things that they're talking about aren't representative of us. I mean, there's so many HBCUs out here and so many Black men and women who are graduating college and going on to be doctors and lawyers and things like that. Those people need to be represented. And people who are talking about drugs and cars and clothes and hoes don't represent those people. There needs to be something for everyone. But the majority of us Black folks, that's not what we're doing. We're going to work every day. We don't have the luxury of being at the strip club every single day. I mean, that's just not realistic. So don't perpetuate that stereotype. Show the real us, or either give some balance and show all of us. And so that's what I'd like to see more of. What do I think needs to be put out into the world? That's a good question. It would be easy to say what needs to be put out into the world is more love, because that's what everybody says. Of course we need love. But what we need more than love is respect. People need to respect each other. Not every Black person is going to like every white person. Not every white person is going to like every Black person. You might not like some people just because they're not nice people, and that's okay. Or you just not, because there's white people who don't like other white people. You just don't get along. Black people don't like other Black people. But as a whole, people need to respect each other, despite whether you like them or not, despite whether or not you like the way they look, despite whether or not you like their culture, the way they talk, the way they raise their children, who they're sleeping with, whether they're gay or straight or transgender. Doesn't matter. You need to respect people. And so that's what I try to put out into the world, is tolerance. You don't have to like me, but you need to teach yourself how to tolerate me so that you can coexist with me in a harmonious way. Because if you don't, we're going to have an issue, because you're not going to disrespect me. You're not going to mistreat me. You're not going to belittle me. And if you don't give it to me, I am going to take it, because I'm going to have mine in this country, in this life. I'm going to have the house and the things that I want, because I'm deserving of those things just as the next person is. So we can build together and do this thing, all of us in America, we can do it together, or we're just going to take it. And we want to be treated equally. And when I say we, I'm talking about Black people, because that's who I represent first. I am Black, and there's nothing I can do about that, nor would I want to do anything about it. But it's important that we be respected as human beings, and we're not inferior to anyone else. So it's not like, oh, we like you, but in the way that we like our dogs. No, you need to like me in a way that you understand that I'm your equal and respect me on that level, so that when you pull me over, you treat me like a human being. You don't treat me like an animal, and you see me as a human being, so much so that you wouldn't think twice you would not have a desire to put your knee on my neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, because that's a human being. So I would like to see people respect each other